All right, guys. Today we're going to talk about temperatures. Temperatures have a lot to do with the chemical. They have a lot to do with the way the outcome of the chemical is. Wanted to show you a little bit of an example of what I'm talking about with that. We've got two of the same material sprayed on two different iPad cases. This one was a preheated subject. We went ahead and preheated our drums all the way until they were warm. Let our temperatures build up all the way up to 150 degrees across the board, and then we sprayed. This gave us a good flat base to go off of, and then when we textured, it gave a good fine little finish. A lot of people say factory OEM look, but I want to say it's better than that. But this is the look that I typically like to see. Now, there is a lot of guys out there that want this thicker, clumpier texture, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's still going to hit all its tensile strength, all its chemical properties that it needs to maintain 250% elongation, 4,000 psi tensile strength. But in this case, we sprayed it without preheating. I had the temperatures turned down a little bit lower on the hoses. We ran at about 130 degrees. And this gave us a clumpier look. And the reason why it does that is because heat speeds up the process of the texture. So when you're texturing, it'll make it more of a fine texture. It cures faster in the air. So if that's gonna be your case, if it cures faster in the air, then it gets a little bit finer on the texture. And when it's curing slower in the air, then it's gonna clump up more before it cures. So if you can get a good shot of those, two different looks, same material, just different temperatures. I run my temperatures at 150 degrees across the board. AB and hose temperatures are all the same. If I was going to spray differently, or if I was trying to get a different outcome, then I'll adjust my temperatures based on that. But I typically stay with the 150 degrees. This is the look that I like to go for.
How do you know if you're not at 150 degrees?
There's an issue. So a lot of times you set your temperatures at 150 degrees, but if you don't recirculate your chemical through the heaters and back into the drums, then you're not preheating your chemical prior to going through your preheaters on your machine and then your hose. So if your chemical is really, really cold, like let's say it's 50 degrees right now, and it goes into the machine's only gonna be able to shoot it up 20, 30 degrees more than that going through the preheaters, and then you've got a 60-foot hose that's heated as well. It can't get it from 50 degrees coming through the drum all the way to 150 degrees by the time it gets out of the gun. So we have to preheat, and in order to preheat, we typically try and get it somewhere around 90 degrees. You can put a laser temp on it. A lot of these newer machines have inlet temperature gauges, so you can see what it's at before you go spray. You try to get it around 90 to 100 degrees before you spray, and all you do is recirculate it. It typically takes about 30 minutes or so, depending on what transfer pumps you have. T3s are a lot faster than the old school T2s or T1s. It's kind of hard to give a time on how long it's going to take to preheat, but you have to preheat.
So how will I know if it's hot enough?
Again, you put a laser temp on it, or a lot of the newer machines have inlet temperatures, like the Reactor 2 EXP2s have inlet temperatures on it, so you can see the actual temperature going into the machine. So you recirculate until that temperature stays consistent.
Okay. How do I know that it stays hot through the hose?
So if for instance, if your hose heat quit working and you had no idea, you had an old machine like this one here, and the hose quit working, hose temperature quit working, then you're gonna see it with a gun. You'll see the material being clumpier than it should. Like you'll do your passes like normal, you'll see it clump up more, and then especially under texture, that's really where it's gonna set off. But you're not gonna have that good clean base that you want a texture on top of. So you'll have to be able to adjust yourself based on that. The newer machines like the Reactor 2s, EXP2s, or the HXP3s or HXP2s, they all shut themselves down if the hose heat isn't working anyway. So you'd have to go and figure out what it is. But if you have one of these old school ones like this, then it's not gonna let you know. It's just gonna spray.
Do you just have to touch the hose to tell, or can you tell that way?
A lot of times you can feel it in your hands. Like for instance, when we got this machine in, it had a break about 20 foot back from the end of the gun. So this one has a hose heat tape that runs around it. It had a break in it. That break was right where the hose heat quit. And you could feel all the way back to where it was cold, from cold to hot. And then we knew where to go to fix it. But It's just one of those things. You have to be alert. I mean, it comes with experience, but if it's supposed to spray one way, it sprays the same way every time. If it doesn't, then figure out why.
Sweet. Thank you.